Hey guys, and welcome to the Point and Click Adventurers podcast. My name is Michael, your point and click adventurer, also known as YakWaxLips. And as always, please welcome back my co-host, TurianShepard. Hi, Turian, you right, mate?
Hello, yeah, I'm good. It's quite funny you said as always, but the last couple of
I know.
episodes hasn't been as always, has it?
No, just but yeah, it's good to have you back. You unfortunately missed the chat we had with the guys for the Foretold. That was a good one.
I did, yep. And Tony Warrener.
And
Very
Tony
jealous.
Warrener, yeah. But Tony did say he'd come back on any time, so
Yeah.
such a lovely chap. Anyway, how are you? How's things?
Okay, yeah, all good. Thank you. Yeah, it's just settling back in. Excited to record another episode.
Yeah, me too. Now, normally we probably would wax lyrical a bit more about loads of stuff, but we had a chat with the wonderful, beautiful, amazing Sally Beaumont the other day. And there was a lot of content. So we won't waffle too much because I think that interview is going to be around about an hour long. But you should listen to every minute because it was such a fun, delightful chat.
Yeah, I think it was probably the funniest guest interview we've had so far, I would say. I was just laughing the entire time, pretty much. Not for bad reasons, for entirely good reasons. She's just really hilarious and very informative as well.
Yeah,
so yeah,
very much so. A lot of things. If you're interested in voice acting and getting into that, then she dropped some heavy truth bombs. It was a great interview. Anyway, but before we get to that, we'll just do a little catch up about what's going on in adventure game news over the past couple of weeks and what we're up to. So, do you want to take the lead on that? What have you been up to?
What have I been up to? I started playing Lucy Dreaming on my channel, which is brilliant. I can see completely now why people ranked it in their top 3 for last year. It's just a really fun, well put together game. The puzzles are great. Like at first I thought this is quite difficult. I might struggle with these, but it's just really well thought through. You can tell that Tom really took the time to go through every puzzle and think, what could players do here? What could they get confused on? And the hints are used really well. Like if you spend too long looking at the wrong thing, Lucy might prompt you just to, maybe I need to, get somebody's help on this or whatever, just to put you back in the right direction. It's a very well-made game, I think, so far. And also Police Quest. I've started the Police Quest series. Never played those before, and it is brutal, to be honest with you. Absolutely brutal, because the best way I can describe it is that it's like a 1980s police simulator. So you have to do everything by the book. Anytime you make an arrest or pursue someone in a car, you got to make sure you're doing exactly the right list of things. Otherwise, the game's like, did this wrong, game over. And it's just like, wow. So yeah, a lot of failures, but it's very rewarding. It's one of those where you finally do something right and you think, oh yeah, it's really good. Like I feel good that I've solved that particular puzzle now. Good fun. How about you?
I'm still plowing through my Broken Sword 3 playthrough. I'm over halfway, I think, and I'm enjoying it. The story is picking up a notch.
Yeah.
I am. Where am I at the minute? I'm in Paris again. I mean, there's quite a lot of locations, but yeah. I remember you mentioned briefly, whether it was on the podcast or just privately, that the box pushing does eventually slow down towards the end. Yeah. I'm not feeling that. I'm feeling there's so many boxes. If anything, they're ramping it up.
So I've seen your videos coming out. I haven't watched all of them yet, but I've seen you did the Cesaro's place bit.
Oh, that's where I am. I'm in Prague. So I'm in the I'm in the mansion. I'm just underneath the mansion. So I think I'm pretty much at the end of that bit.
Okay, yeah. So after that section, it does dial down the box puzzles a little bit, and you get some quite cool little puzzles. Actually, it almost changes into a slightly different game, which is quite nice.
Okay, well, I look forward to that. I mean, the box puzzles aside, I mean, they're not hard box puzzles. They're just irritating because there's so many of them. It's like you come to the 7th one, you go like, I know what I'm doing here.
Yeah,
it's put there for a puzzle's sake. But apart from that, the story is really good, and I'm enjoying it. Apart from that, what have I been doing? I played a couple of demos, actually. I played the demo for The Adventures of Brian Scott, which has a Kickstarter out at the minute. Yeah. That was good fun. That was, I think it's a debut game, but they've managed to grab Ralph Saxon, who was obviously the voice of George Stobart. So I don't know how they managed to swindle him into the game. But no, that's it. Have you played that one? I think
I have. Yeah. I played the demo for that. Yeah, it's very good.
Yeah,
very good fun.
It was good fun. Yeah, good. And then yesterday, which should be out on my channel probably before this podcast drops. Actually, I played the latest Captain Disaster demo. So Dave Seaman contacted me on Twitter and says, "Hey, I've got another one coming up," and I think it's the third one. So I played a bit of the first one way back when. And yeah, Dave and I stayed in touch. He's a nice, lovely guy on Twitter. And he also wrote The Corruption Within, which was a great game last year. And with the artwork from Cosmic Void, that was really good. So yeah, I gladly played that. And I played that yesterday. It's very much, if you haven't played the Captain Disaster games, it's very space questy. Basically, it's a funny guy in space.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I had fun with that. It's not voiced. Apparently, the final game will be voiced. So I was there playing half an hour of it, doing many accents.
Yeah.
So you got me doing Brummie and Scottish, and I don't even remember. I make it up on the spot. So that was fun.
Yeah, I played that. I think last week that video came out on my channel, and yeah, I did the same thing. Sort of did the terrible. And I was sitting there when we spoke to Sally, actually thinking like, oh god, she said that she watches our videos sometimes, and she's probably watching those little voice acting bits and thinking, what on earth is this?
Yeah, we haven't got a career in voice acting. No, I think. I didn't realize that you'd actually done that. I'm gonna hop off this at the end and give yours a watch then.
Yeah, it's really good fun because there's quite a lot of references as well, isn't there? From like popular space themed sci-fi stuff. And yeah, I think I got most of them. Dave said. I think there was one I didn't.
Yeah.
So it'd be interesting to see if you manage to get them all when your video comes out.
Yeah, I'll see. I'll see. I can't remember. I mean, it was only yesterday I played it, but no, it was really good fun. I only really played for like 25 minutes because of just time sake and all that. But I think it was one demo where I could gladly have carried on playing and playing. But yeah, 25 minutes there. And then apart from that, I'm continuing my journey through a couple of games. One of my New Year's resolutions was make sure you finish a game before you start a new one, which means that I barely started any games this year because I'm still plowing through old games. So I'm about halfway through Justin Whack and the Big Time Hack. That's really good fun, good puzzles. And then also I am not even halfway through a Return to Monkey Island. So I know it came out as a big furore and it's just like, oh my God, I've got to play it straight away. And then it's like 6-7 months later and I still haven't played it. And I quite like that, rather than just jumping in and splurging it all at once. So my plan is to finish Justin Whack first and then go back to Monkey Island. And then apart from that, on the channel wise, again, one of my New Year's resolutions is to do the reviews of these games that I've played. So I very graciously get given many new games and I play them when I can. And then I don't review them because reviewing takes a long time. It can take 5-6 hours to write script, record, edit, go in, do more gameplay and stuff like that. Yeah. So I had my review of Lord Winklebottom Investigates came out last week. Yep. I'll be having my review of Born Punk come out maybe before this podcast comes out. If not, then definitely a couple of days after this because it's all but done. And then I have loads of other games I've got to review, like Cleo, Voodoo Detective, Ghosts on the Shore, Intruder in Anticonia, Trouble Hunter Chronicles. Which was one that I got given years ago, and I said, "Yeah, I'll do a review." And then, the developer nudged me and says, "Are you going to do this review?" So, I replayed that. So basically, I've got my hands full.
Yeah, sounds like it.
And it all comes down to that nugget of time. But, so that's me on my channel.
Okay.
So, what about adventure game news? Because I was going to talk about Kickstarter stuff. And I know you were as well, but because we haven't recorded for a couple of weeks, a lot of these Kickstarters have started and finished already. But I think it's worth mentioning a couple of games that are out there and that have just finished, whether they're still still on the road. So I'll just start with one that I know of, and it's off the back of the Justin Whack and the Big Time Hack. The artist for that made Death Corp, I believe it's called. I played the demo of that. It's really good fun, and he smashed that Kickstarter. So that was something that if you don't know what that's if you didn't know about that, then definitely go and check out that because that was really good fun. There was a couple of others. Do you know of any others?
There was Roots in the Sky, which is the second Hand of Glory game. That again, successful Kickstarter.
Yeah.
Have you played the Hand of Glory?
It was one of my very first, apart from Monkey Island 1, it was my very first Let's Play that I did on the channel.
Okay.
And it was yeah, I really, really enjoyed it. It's probably really dicey to watch now because I'm probably there mumbling along, as I do quite often, actually thinking about it. But back then, it was probably worse. Yeah, I played that when it came out, and I really liked it. I'm excited to go back into Lazarus's Bundes world.
Yeah, and it looks like they've sort of stepped it up a level from what I've seen from the second game so far, the demo and the screenshots and things. It looks like they've taken it up a notch, so it looks quite cool. And the other one was The Will of Arthur Flabbington. I don't know if you know about that one. That one had a Kickstarter just to get voice acting and stuff on it, and that successfully got funded as well. So there's a lot of games in the works at the moment.
Yep, a lot going on.
So there's that, and actually there's one coming later this year from Tall Story Games, who are working on another point and click adventure game.
Wow, exclusive. Has he mentioned that at all?
It was in a newsletter, yeah. So it's nice. Out there, but yeah. So that will be coming later this year, possibly. So awesome. The Kickstarter will, not the game itself, I wouldn't imagine. But
yeah. Well, whilst we're on the story of Tall Story Games, I do believe it's just been released on Switch at Lucid Dreaming, and it's doing amazingly well.
It is,
so I think if anyone wants to jump into and make a game, I think that Tom is kind of like the role model for because he was. If you're not sure who Tom is, he was actually our first guest on the podcast, wasn't he? So we'll leave a link somewhere to listen to that. And basically, he liked the genre, he liked the idea, and started to create it, not really knowing the community that's there, and then introduced himself and became part of the community, and then it's just done everything right, and it helps that the game is is really good as well. Although I have not yet played it, that will be my next one.
It's well worth a play. Sometimes like you get hyped up about a game and then you play it and you go, oh, it was all right, but it wasn't quite what I thought it was going to be. This is not like that. Like playing through it, I'm just thinking, yes, I can see why it's everyone's so excited about this one.
Yeah.
But yeah, be exciting to see what they do next, because it's a strong game to try and create. I don't think it's a sequel necessarily. He hasn't really released too much, but it'll be interesting to see how a second game after such a successful first game goes.
Yeah, it will be interesting, and we'll be following along both on both our channels, no doubt. So I think Sally Beaumont is in Lucy Dreaming. Do you know who she voices in that?
I don't actually. I've been trying to figure it out while I've been playing, but sometimes it's very difficult to place voices. So what I didn't want to do is look it up and spoil potential things for myself. With it being like a first playthrough, let's play. I don't like to accidentally Google something and go, "Damn it, I've seen the ending," or whatever it is. So no, I'm not overly sure, but she's definitely.
Yeah, we obviously we did speak to Sally a couple of days ago, and she was an absolute delight. Like we said at the start, she was the funniest, most welcoming, heartwarming person on the planet. And we spoke a little while after we stopped pressing record, and I really wish we'd carried on recording because some of the things she said afterwards were just golden nuggets. But yeah, alas, it is between us three now. But we'll leave you with this, and then we'll come back right at the end. So settle down and get comfy, and here is our chat with Sally Beaumont. Hey guys, so you may recognize today's guest from her myriad appearances across some of today's best adventure games like Lucy Dreaming, The Excavation of Hobbs Barrow, Lord Winklebottom Investigates, and the upcoming Old Skies, plus many, many more. She's lending her voice today to us here on the Point and Click Adventurers podcast, so please welcome voice actor Sally Beaumont. Hello.
Hi, lovely to be here.
Yes, finally, we've been trying to get you on this podcast for a while now, but we're absolutely delighted that we've managed to sync our times.
Yeah.
So we're just going to dive straight in and say, basically, you have become a very well-known and respected voice actor in the adventure game world. Are adventure games something that you've always kind of gravitated to? Is it, or is it something that you've discovered through your work?
I am a bona fide adventure game fan. I'm not the kind of fan that sometimes there's a bit of gatekeeping around this, where they go, in the 90s, did you play this obscure Sierra game? And I haven't played everything, but I grew up playing them, and I kind of blame Dominic Amato a little bit for my career, because there was a real light bulb moment when I was playing Curse of Monkey Island where I was like, that's a person with a job. Ooh. So my start was basically with adventure games, but it is the kind of game that I play now. It's my preferred leisure activity, which is really weird. After a long day of adventure game recording, I just like to relax with an adventure game. I do love them.
Yeah, I think we can relate to that as well. Obviously, we do this not for a living yet, but we cover adventure games, and then the one thing that I know we both do is sit and play adventure games.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, I think particularly as a performer, that they have such a big focus on story and character. It really makes sense for me to gravitate towards that. But as a player as well, those are the things I really enjoy. So I'm a proper fan, and I hope that comes over in some of my performances. I always say, at least I know why I'm recording a million different permutations of that doesn't work. That doesn't work either. What are you doing?
So as Michael said there, that you've had a number of roles in the adventure game world, especially over the last couple of years. But if you had to choose one in particular that you were the most proud of, what would it be and why?
Oh, this is like choosing your children.
I've got a favourite child. I mean, go for it.
Oh my God.
Can't say that.
Oh my God, you can't say that.
I haven't really. They're all awful.
Oh no. So I think for me, because adventure games are always so interesting and they're so character based and they have amazing characters, quite often my favorite character is whatever I'm working on right now, which that feels like I'm dipping out on the question, but it genuinely is. Sometimes I'll get approached with something and I'll have never have imagined this, and I get asked to do something way out of my comfort zone or something new, and I just go, yes, this is my favorite thing. And then the next one comes up and I go, no, this is my favorite thing. I do really like the role of Carlotta in Metropolis. I loved playing her, just because she has a very similar energy to me. There's a very kind of Bridget Jones, slightly frenetic and neurotic energy to her that I find really, really, really fun. And I got directed by Alistair Beckett King as well. So the sessions were really fun. Most of the outtakes are me laughing at how funny he is. But he did the script as well, so he just made me really funny, and I get all the praise. But we were just kind of playing around and trying to make each other laugh with the lines, and that was really lovely. I do have to kind of say, in Old Skies, Fia is a character I haven't played anyone like her before, and I haven't been involved in a process like this before. And she is simultaneously kind of my nemesis because she's challenging me in so many different ways. Dave really loves to throw down challenges to me in terms of acting, which I adore. But she's also probably the closest person to me because I'm a time traveler. Oh no, I said it now. Also, can you delete that for me? Yeah, that she's got a lot of the similar personality traits to me, and I think maybe playing yourself is quite hard, but there are lots of points where Dave has particularly introduced quite English phrases, and I feel really comfy there. And I'll say, "Oh, that's really comfy." I would definitely say that. And
yeah,
I think Fia is probably the biggest challenge for me at the moment, and biggest challenge means probably my favorite, because I love something that makes me rethink everything that I do. I'm doing so much in this role. I get to do so many different things, and I can't really talk about all of it, but I will talk about some of it. Yeah, I'm really curious how people are going to react to her. Really curious.
Yeah. Well, we were going to move on to Old Skies towards the back end of the entry, but seeing as you've brought it up so early,
haven't I?
Yes, you've teased it. It is the upcoming game from WadjetEye, which is obviously one of Adventure Games' biggest developers these days. Obviously, you voiced someone in a couple of people in Hobbs Barrow, which were the guys at Cloak and Dagger, but Dave published that. So how did you get involved with Old Skies? And like you said, what is the process like working with Dave?
Gosh, have you got a couple of days to talk about this? Yeah, so many interesting things to say. So if there are any voice actors listening in or watching, hoping that they will get like a top tip for how to work with Dave, I would say that this process is not it, because neither of us could have predicted how this was going to go. So you may have seen Dave's talk, How a Game Jam Saved My Life, at Adventure X a few years ago.
Yeah.
And he talks about Adventure X, and I was kind of involved in that right from the outset. So I knew that he was working on the next game, and he was having that kind of difficult second album problem, that there was so much expectation from Unavowed because it is incredible.
Yeah.
Kind of catching that lightning in a bottle again was really tough on him. And I'd been sort of bugging him for a while about just doing a jam game, just do something silly, something creative that is not the project you're getting paid to do. And I've been the voice acting mod at Adventure Jam for a while now, so I'm there promoting voice acting in games and protecting voice actors and helping new voice actors and things. It's a lovely task. And I kind of been poking Dave about doing Adventure Jam for a while, and he kind of eventually relented to my nagging, and decided to make a game anonymously, which I think was really smart. Just take all of that pressure off of yourself and just make something you really enjoy, which is kind of what jams are all about. And he produced a lovely little jam game called Old Skies, and got me to play the lead in it. And she's a time traveler called Fia. Any of this sounding familiar yet? Yeah, and he was sort of saying, he found it quite easy to write the dialogue for that because he knew I was going to play it, and he kind of knew my speech patterns because I'm a talker. I talk so much. You'll have to stop me at some point, but when we meet up, because we've been friends for years, and when we meet up, there's this sort of wall of sound where we talk about voice acting together, and we're like, oh yes, so that's so true, yes. So he knows my voice patterns, and he knew he could write for me, and he could kind of give me a few interesting challenges in that, and I would be able to do it. And I self-directed on that as well, but I videoed bits of what I was doing and sent it over to him so he could see what I was doing. And yeah, it's a lovely little game. I think it's still available on itch.io somewhere. Yes. But that was a lovely process, and we finally got to work together because we hadn't at that point. And I thought, well, that was lovely. And then PC Gamer picked up the story that it was quite interesting that, Dave Gilbert's done a little jam game. Well, this is interesting. And everything went very quiet for a bit. And then Dave got in touch and went, we're making Old Skies. We're going to do a full version of it. Do you want to do it? Yeah, I want to do it. Of course I want to do it. And yeah, so I've sort of been there before it was even really a thing, and it's been a complete roller coaster. There was a period where it was being made in Unity, so it was going to be a 3D game, and I would get photos. This sounds so dodgy. Dave would send me photos where it's like, I can't get the clothes to stay on the sprites. Like anybody else, I would just be like, block that person. It's the process of making things in Unity is really entertaining and messy. And I can't remember where in the process it was, but he kind of, after a really good try, he and Ben trying to sort out Unity, kind of went, yeah, no, we're cancelling it. And it was really tough. And I was like, oh, that's such a shame, Could have been in there at the start on a WadjetEye game. Oh, that would be amazing. Oh well, went back to my life and doing other stuff. And then a few months later, it's back on. My heart. In the interim, he'd done a talk. And the end of the talk was, and we're not making it. So what? Okay. And then quite early on in that process, the pandemic hit, so we were all sort of stuck in our houses, and we had a few chats about this on Zoom, and we were kind of workshopping who this protagonist was and how the whole process of time travel would work in the game. And then at that point, I think this is when Dave was talking to you, it was about a multi-generational family and Fia getting involved in various bits of the family. And then that got scrapped. So this is quite illustrative of what game development is like. This isn't a weird process at all. This isn't me kind of going, look how rubbish Dave is. Quite the opposite. Look how tenacious Dave is with this idea, because it was tickling something and he just needed to find the right vehicle for it. So that got finished. And then there was another break, and then he did another talk about this, about turning it into a more modular game, that it was self-contained missions with an overarching storyline, and that seemed to really take off for him. And at that point we'd been sort of talking about the game and the ideas and what was going on with it and who Fia really was. There's been several different kinds of Fia over the years, which is fascinating, and I have so many different versions of the game in my mind, which kind of makes me perfect to play Fia, because she has many versions of reality in her mind all at once that may or may not have ever existed. But yeah, there was one Zoom chat where we were talking about character and we were talking about story beats, and Dave kind of went, do you want to do some writing on this? Of course I want to do some writing on this. Let me at it. For anyone who doesn't know, I've been a playwright as long as I've been an actor, so it's not an unusual thing for me to talk about writing. And of course, because I'm working with dialogue all of the time, I know a lot about game dialogue and what lands and what doesn't. So I got handed a time looping mission to work on, which kind of melted my brain, if I'm honest. But I kind of loved it because, again, I like a challenge. If I haven't done something before, I want to work out how to do it. And part of the role of writing for this, so the title is narrative consultant. So what you do is you write something, and then Dave uses that as the foundation for what he's going to write. So you have to have a kind of emotional disconnect that you're going to do your best job on it, but it probably won't see the light of day, depending on which bits he wants to keep or doesn't keep. So you have to, again, game writing, you need a really thick skin. But I'm the kind of writer that if I can find a good solution and write something good, that's the reward in itself. And yeah, watching it transform into something completely different in Old Skies has been fascinating. So I'm about as involved in this project as it's possible to be. And whenever there's something happening, like with the launch trailer that happened last year, my heart is in my mouth, because there's so much of me in this. That's a really long-winded way of saying this project. I've been involved from the start. I have done lots of writing and voice acting, and yeah. Like
Nice.
you say, if you're a voice actor, don't do this.
Yeah, there's some voice
Not
actors. There's some voice actors going out there going, "Oh my god!" Like,
Yeah.
reams and reams of notes. Where do I start?
No,
Yeah.
no. More often, it's just I get an email from someone who's seen my work elsewhere and would like me for their game. It's normally like that. So for me, being this involved in the project, on one hand, I am exhausted by just the secondhand experience of it. I don't actually understand how any games exist, quite frankly. It's a miracle anything ever gets put out, because game development has so many different things that can go wrong. And when I look back on things like the Blackwell series and realize how much extraordinary hard work must have gone into those for Dave to create them, I think his status in the industry is earned in sweat and blood, quite frankly.
Yeah.
I think, I think some people, maybe players, look at those games and think, oh, they're not a big deal. And I'm like, no, I know what's under the hood to get there, both in terms of technical and writing. There's so much going on in those games. They're a favorite of mine as well. But yeah. Does that answer the question about how involved I was?
It does indeed.
It does.
Yeah.
Basically, if it's a success, I've been involved in every element. If it goes wrong, I'm just the voice actor.
Yeah,
It's not. It's I can't say why I think this, but I think it's gonna do okay. Okay. I'm so British. I just don't want to jinx it.
No, I'm sure it will do exceptionally well. I've featured it on my channel. I know you have as well, Turian. So yes, best of luck with that. So I'm just going to circle back a little bit to the first question where you said that you played Curse and you realized, hold on, that's a job that Guybrush is speaking there. So from Curse to making it your full-time income, like how does that look? Because I mean, we've all played Curse here, and we've all at some point, gone, oh, Dominic Marto is great. Very few of us has gone, I want to do that. So how did you get to here from there?
I ask myself that question at 4 a.m. many times. How did I get here? How am I? No, I still think I have the best job in the world. I'm so lucky. I'm genuinely so lucky. So I think I kind of realized that that was an actual job, but I didn't really act on that because I couldn't really see a route into it. So I trained as an actor and a playwright and went off and did screen acting, stage acting, all of that business, and was a jobbing actor for a long time. And during my so I went to university. So during my university course, I spotted on a lot of actor bulletins that there were these voice jobs that were voice only jobs, and they were paid way better than the acting jobs, which doesn't really make sense to me. But I was training as a studio engineer at the time as part of my course because it was interesting, and I realized, wait a second, I can do all these voiceover jobs. And it sounds like I kind of fell into it, but I'd been doing things like accessibility recordings for the Open University. So every text they produce has to have an audio recording for accessibility, which is awesome, but it means that I got to record all sorts of interesting stuff. So I had all these sort of skills, and then I was doing a lot of corporate stuff, and then games would pop up. And at that point, I wasn't really playing games, that I'd sort of stopped after, playing them as a child, and kind of almost forgot that adventure games and so on existed. And I think during that period, it was the lull between the two. I'm going to say the two golden ages of adventure games. That a lot of games were kind of pew pew kind of games. And I did a lot of I call them the sexy weapon voices, where you're doing a fighty game and you have to equip with a new weapon, and you get a sexy female voice that says equipping shotgun, and that's me. And I did those sorts of things all over the place for a bit. And this is a genuine story, that I was in the pub one evening in my local, and I was talking to a friend about games and so on, and he said, oh, do you like adventure games? I said, I love them, played them as a child, they were great games. Oh, you should play this game by my friend. It's called Bertram Fiddle. It's like this weird Victorian comedy adventure game that's a bit like Carry On films. And I said, yeah, that sounds great. And I went away and played it and came back and said, can you give him my voice reel? Because I want to work with this person. And that's kind of how I got Bertram Fiddle too. So that was kind of my gateway adventure game. And while we were working together, so Seb was sort of very excited that somebody could be as silly as me. And again, wow, how fortunate am I that somebody recognized my silliness as a skill, that he knew that I could do these gigantic characters. And I'm not an actor that holds back and tries to be sensible. I will give you the silliest take imaginable. And there is probably video of this somewhere, that for a couple of the roles in Bertram Fiddle 2, I'm about 6 feet away from the microphone because I was shouting so and while we were chatting in the break, Seb went, oh, do you go to Adventure X? And I said, what's that? amazing moment. And he explained to me that there was a convention for adventure games and I should go. And I did. I did a panel the first year, and that's where I met Dave. And I got to meet Rolf Saxon, which I'm still like flustered. Just nothing prepares you for being on the receiving end of that voice. He's an incredibly charismatic person. And the first moment that we met, he put out his hand and said, "Sally Beaumont, I love your work." And I nearly fainted. Sweet! Broken sport.
Wow.
And such a professional, right? You asked, "Are you an adventure game fan?" Nearly fainted at Rolf Saxon. Yes, I am. I had this sort of wonderful experience of getting to Adventure X and meeting all these people that were doing the kind of games that I genuinely thought weren't being made anymore. And I'm sure lots of people have this experience with Adventure X, like, my people, these are my people. And I met so many lovely, kind people there, and so many of the games from that year I worked on. And I think that was the thing. That's what opened things up for adventure games for me. Literally that little tiny conversation in a pub to working on Bertram Fiddle 2. And I do sometimes go, oh God, if that hadn't happened, I'd like to think I would have found everyone anyway. I hope so, because like my skill set and my personal interest in adventure games, I would hope would lead me there. But again, doesn't bear thinking about. But the process has been windy, but I'm very happy here. I kind of wish I'd found it 10 years ago, but you can't think like that, because I probably wouldn't have the skill set then. So things happen as they happen.
Yeah. And you mentioned almost a second golden era of adventure games sort of going on at the moment, and there's a lot of old game series coming back. There's developers coming back to the genre, things like that. If you could do some voice acting for any adventure game series, anyone at all, what would be sort of the dream game series?
I did think about this a lot. It's tough because, well, firstly, historically, there's not that many female roles, or female roles with substance, and that's kind of the thing that I'm really enjoying at the moment, is so many interesting female characters. So my options are pretty limited to, I don't know. I don't know. I can't think now. I did sort of weigh this up, and I feel like I don't have an answer, because if I loved that character, it was almost certainly because the voice acting was brilliant. So I wouldn't want to replace that. And I'm a big fan of moving forwards and doing something new, which is not to say I don't enjoy the historical games. I absolutely do. I just feel like iterating on the same IPs over and over again only has a limited appeal, I think, for players and creatively. I'm dancing around this question, aren't I? I really don't know.
That's a fair answer. That's an absolutely fair answer. Yeah.
Always looking forwards, always moving forwards. That's
moving forwards.
Yeah.
I wanted to broach this subject with you, because on a personal level, there's always that I can do voice acting. All it is speaking thing. So what are your thoughts? I mean, and I'll tell you why I'm asking you this. So first off, the question is, what are your thoughts on non-voice actors, or even non-actors at all, just the general public, taking on voice acting roles? And I'll tell you why I asked that, because I put a tweet out about a year ago, 9 months ago, being in the community, saying, it'd be awesome to voice a character. And the developer, Falco of Born Punk, got in contact with me and gave me a few roles. And it was awesome to record. It was hard. There was to me, and well, I thought, I was a kind of down on the streets robot, so I put on this really robotic voice, and I thought I did a great job. And then I played the game and I heard myself, and I just sounded like a brummie, because I live quite near to Birmingham. So like, there's a massive difference between actors, non-voice actors. I mean, what are your thoughts on basically, you know, them infiltrating your your jobs?
I think you're sort of maybe predicting that I would say everybody needs to stay out and keep, this is my lane and no one can join me. I think there's so many interesting routes into being a voice actor and so many different skill sets. I think there is room for a lot of different people. However, I think the thing that you've identified is this assumption that it's going to be a really easy thing. It's a bit like saying, well, everyone can be a writer because they can hold a pen.
Yeah.
That sounds silly, but people seem to think that because I can speak, I can voice act. So sometimes it really pays off. So in Lucy Dreaming, the lead character, Lucy, is played by Emma Hardwidge, and she's not a trained actor, but she's done a fantastic job because she can do the thing that is required of Lucy. And that's an often... It's something that often happens because of budgets, that the lead character often has so much stuff to say in an adventure game because there's so many objects and combinations and all of this business, so many options of dialogue, that they can't afford to get a professional in. And quite often you'll find the developer themselves voicing it, and that will save money sort of, but what it costs you is time and frustration, because it can take a very long time to work out exactly where to put the emphasis in the sentence to get the sense across and all of this business, or your accent has drifted, or all of this stuff.
Yeah.
So it can work out really well, it can be fine, but it's a gamble. And I think the thing with hiring a voice actor who that's their profession is it takes the gamble out of it. It's something that lets a developer relax, and that's something that I see over and over again, that quite often if a developer is working with a mix of people, they'll bring me in and they'll be going, so what we really need is does that, and they're very tense, and then they'll hear me do the first few lines and go, oh, you get it. Oh, this is going so fast. Oh, I hate to blow my own trumpet like that, but that's what getting a professional in is about. That, you know, a lot of people could fix, I don't know, a leaky tap or their kitchen sink. It would take you forever and it would be messy and horrible, or you can hire a plumber. That's kind of the distinction. There's loads of people like me who didn't go to drama school who can still do the thing. I don't gatekeep that at all. And particularly if you're any kind of marginalized, drama school isn't really an option. And it can be just so expensive. And that was the reason I couldn't go. And so I would be very hesitant to say only this type of person can be a voice actor. Yeah, so for you, I think your experience was that you didn't have the skill of being able to hear yourself.
Yeah.
So what you thought was coming out of your mouth wasn't. And that's super, super common. And I speak to a lot of people who are like, oh no, I can't listen to myself. Oh no. And I spend all day, every day listening to myself. Pity me. Okay. But I have the ability to record myself, listen back and go, now, am I doing the thing that I was aiming for? What do I change? How do I change that? And that kind of analysis that you can do. And the other thing is to be able to understand what direction means, to be able to understand what a bunch of context means. You'll quite often get a huge amount of context about this, say like this sci-fi world, and you have to somehow translate that into the sense that you should communicate with your voice. So it's quite a complicated job. So you know, you shouldn't feel bad that you found it challenging. It is really challenging.
Yeah.
And the biggest challenge above all else is to make it seem effortless.
Yeah.
So it's very much that swan thing, that when I'm working, it looks serene. It looks like I'm doing just one thing above the water, but underneath I'm paddling like nobody's business. My brain is doing 4 things at once. So yeah, I would say it's a very welcoming profession, as long as you're prepared to put in the work and understand what the job actually involves. That would be my answer.
Great. So, I mean, if there is somebody watching this video or listening and they think, I really want to do this, but we've not got any equipment, I've got no experience, where do I start? I was going to say one piece of advice, but I'm not going to do that. Where would you recommend somebody like that starts to get involved in voice acting?
Well, I think the answer is in your question. You say, I don't have any equipment. Boom. I don't have any experience. Boom. I get a lot of messages from people who want to be voice actors who are looking to break in that one weird trick, and they get really disappointed when it's like, it's a certain amount of hard work and consistency in doing this specific thing. They're looking for, just call Fred at this agency and you'll be working on AAA. Like, they want to slot in at the top. They want to slot in where I'm working without the bit underneath of kind of obscurity and hard work. And I think it really, my advice depends on where you're coming from. So if you're an actor and you want to come into voice acting, you need to understand the processes of recording, working with your voice, working with direction, particularly if you're working remote. That can be quite an interesting experience, and it can be quite alien for stage and screen actors. If you have no acting experience at all, what I'm going to say, get some acting experience. Above all else, if you only do one thing, get improvisation lessons, classes, get an opportunity to do improv, because if there's one thing that voicing games teaches you, is you've got to be quick on your feet, quick on your toes. You've got to be able to adapt quickly when the situation changes. Sometimes the script will be rewritten in front of you. You've got to be able to just go, okay. You can't be in the corner focusing and doing your thing. Like, I know some people enjoy that as a technique, but for me, I tend to kind of click into place, and then I'm in work mode, and then anything goes, and I'm kind of open. There's a phrase in improv which is really useful. It's called yes and. So when you improvise with somebody, you throw an idea at them, no matter how outlandish, and their job is to say yes and this approach means that you're open, you agree to the given circumstances. Even if you don't like them, you're going, okay, yes, I'm a time traveler. And that means, and so you're adding your own idea on top in the theme of what you've had suggested to you. So yes and is a really useful concept. That sense of being kind of open and just kind of rolling with whatever's going on. In terms of like actual advice, listen to yourself. Practice reading aloud. Sight reading is incredibly important because it's not just about reading the text. You have to lift the text. So it should sound like you're coming up with it on your own. They should feel like your words. And quite commonly, if you're sight reading, you'll be reading the next sentence while you're speaking the current sentence, which can be a bit of a brain melt. But it means that you're never surprised by the end of a sentence. I do have a running joke with Dave that I'm basically Ron Burgundy, because I will read anything that he writes down. I will trust him and I will just read anything. It sometimes comes out like that because I have trusted him completely. There's so many there's a combination of hard skills and soft skills that you have to have as a voice actor. And again, the job is to make it look effortless and easy underneath. If you can learn small business skills, I know, boring, right? Small business skills, marketing skills, social media skills, all of that business, very, very helpful. Learn to network, by which I mean actually have an interest in other people. Don't walk around with your business card in your hand and shove it at everybody or accept it, because they go straight in the bin. I've seen it go straight in the bin. Actually have an interest in people and their job and understanding the work, particularly developers. Understand what their need is, and even if they're not hiring right now, you get to understand what your role is as a voice actor. There's a voiceover artist called James Allberger who has a very wise phrase. He says, write voiceover on a piece of paper. You think that's your job. It's not. Cross it out. The actual job is problem solver. And as soon as you shift your mindset to I'm solving a problem for game developers, it changes your outlook entirely. That's a big mindset change. That quite often I come in at the end of a process where everyone is exhausted and they are sick of their concept because they've been working on it for 3 years. And a big part of my job is to come in like a Labrador puppy and be full of enthusiasm, because I usually am. This is an amazing concept. Oh my goodness, I can't believe you're making this. I've already wishlisted it. I really want to play it. Oh my goodness, I get to do a voice in it. And this is genuinely how I feel. And I will come in with this wave of new energy and record these lines that they've had knocking around in the head, and they go, oh, it's real. Oh, this is a real game. Oh my goodness. And like, it's not unheard of for developers to have a little cry once they hear the voice in the game, hopefully for good reasons.
Yeah.
But I have heard of developers going, I've had this voice in the back of my head for so long and it's real, and suddenly the game feels like a real game. Oh my goodness. It's this weird magical human element that gets added in that again, it's kind of like magic. You can't really explain it, but at a certain point, all of the code, all of the pixels suddenly turn into something you can relate to as a person, and it is, yeah, it's super magical. And yeah, if you can get your head around that as a voice actor, good luck with that. You weren't expecting philosophy, but you know, I do have a whole philosophy of it and why it sort of hangs like that. But yeah, your job is to not. I hear a lot of voice actors talk about their dream and their journey to be a voice actor, and I think it's fine to have that inside your head and hold that in your heart as your little journey. But it's not your client's job to fulfill your dreams. They have a need and you fulfill it. That sounds really boring as a small business, but you fulfill it with funny voices. It's great. I am part Muppet, I'll admit. But yeah, so my sort of practical steps. Shall I give you some practical steps to be a voice actor?
Go for it.
Listen to yourself, record yourself. It doesn't matter if it's your phone. Just keep listening to yourself and comparing what you're hearing to what you're hearing in games or whatever field you want to work in. Start getting that ability to hear yourself and compare. Get a reel together, even if it's 3 good clips of contrasting pieces. I would say the first clip needs to be the most similar to your real voice, and then you can go wild. I often use do you have a reel as a kind of litmus test, because if you've put the work in to have a reel, you're not dipping your toe, you really mean it. And a lot of this is kind of, you've got to leap at some point. You can't just kind of give it a little bash. You've got to go for it, make the reel, spend some time thinking about the characters you might want to play, the things that might suit you, the things that might not suit you are just as important as well. And it's useful to look at your skill set and say, well, I can't do that just yet, but I could take a class, or I could do this, or I could study this accent, and then I will be able to do that, and I can add that to the reel later. So you're sort of already seeing that it's a career, it's a process, it's not break in and question mark profit. Get your reel together and then start telling people it's what you do. Do not say I'm an aspiring voice actor. You are a voice actor. Just do the thing. Tell people about it. Tell people about it on social media. I get so much work because I talk about voice acting endlessly on Twitter. And someone's decided that I may be an expert because of it. No, it's just telling people that you have this reel and you're looking for this kind of work. That kind of outward looking approach can really help. I see people with amazing reels that never share them. And I see people that are great at marketing that still don't have a reel. And yeah, you've got to join those two things up. And then once you've booked one job, talk about that, add it to the reel, book another job, this is really boring, isn't it? It's not like a magical story. These are small, manageable steps that you can do to build up a business as a voice actor. And eventually the momentum builds. And okay, this is a little bit of a brag. You must allow me a brag. I don't audition very much. I audition maybe 4 times a month. And I know there are voice actors that are auditioning like 5 times a day, which sounds exhausting. An awful lot of my work doesn't come through auditioning. It doesn't come through jobs that are even advertised. Sometimes I'm just approached directly. And like I say, feels like a big brag, but I've worked for it. And they know what I can do. They know the stuff that I'm good at, and they know I've got the skill set, and they know that other developers have trusted me in the past, and developers all talk to each other and recommend voices to one another and so on, and play each other's games. So it does sort of snowball like that. And yeah, I get approached, do you want to do this thing? Yes, no. And that's a fantastic position to be in. Yeah, that's the goal, that your career kind of self-maintains after that point.
Yeah, I think that's an absolutely total on the nail point. Like, the adventure game genre community is obviously worldwide these days, but it is so small. Like, you go to Adventure X, and which both Turian and I have been. I think you were ill last year, so we didn't meet up. But it's so your name is bandied about a lot, and you've put a lot of work in. So that kind of leads me on to the next question. Now, we've obviously mentioned Old Skies. What else have you got in the pipeline that you're working on now, or that you are interested in working on in the future?
See, this is where non-disclosure agreements are a big deal. I can say absolutely nothing. I'm having a lot of fun.
Well, okay, that's
no. So the big thing that I'm working on is Old Skies, because there is a ginormous amount of dialogue in it, and I think Dave has very wisely decided to kind of spread it out so that we're not sort of doing it in one intensive month. It's being spread out over time, and that allows sort of a creative back and forth of the character as well, which is something that's quite new for me. I'm normally brought in right at the end of a process, and normally everyone is panicking because they're going to launch fairly soon, and you've got to get it now. And again, yes, new voice actors learn to work under pressure, she says, fluffing her line. Let's try that again. New voice actors, try to practice working under pressure. Be cool under pressure. At least try and get it on the second take. So in the industry, you will be asked to sign some terrifying documents called NDAs, non-disclosure agreements. And they are there for a really good reason, because there's all sorts of proprietary information that you will get as a voice actor, hopefully, that will help you understand the world of the game. So stuff like the art, the concept, the storyline, any twists, and they need to protect that. And I totally understand that. The other thing that I'm waiting to come out, so we're done on the voice acting, is Harold Halibut. And no, I don't know when it's coming out. Couldn't tell you if I did. That's got a very heavy NDA because of the character that I play. And that's literally all I can say about that. And I'm going to be so excited to talk about that eventually, because it was an incredible experience. And that game is incredible. Everything about it is awesome. And I've seen the whole game Bible of it and all of the art. And it blew my mind when they approached me to work on it. But yeah, at the moment, everything is heavily NDA'd. But as you probably gathered, I'm quite busy. And I'm itching to be released so that I can talk about it all at some point. In a job where marketing is so important and sharing your work is so important, the NDA block can be so difficult. I've worked on amazing game. Can't say anything for another 2 years.
Yeah.
Oh.
So Old Skies is your main focus, I guess, because that's in at the ground, working its way up. I guess I'm asking out of hope, is there any tiny little nitpick of anything that you can release about Old Skies that nobody knows yet? Worth an ask.
Oh, that nobody knows yet. See, the thing is, that Dave Gilbert doesn't do NDAs. So
Ooh.
theoretically, I can tell you everything.
We'll start pressing record now. We'll have a little chat. Yeah.
No, I'm not going to. Because as a player myself, I don't want to ruin anything. I will say that it's a really fascinating game. There is so much going on in it. And I do get a bit fed up of everyone going, well, when's it going to be finished? If you had any idea how complicated it is to write a time travel game and implement it, my goodness. And it is going to be worth the wait. It's absolutely going to be worth the wait. And as I hinted, Dave is really putting me through my acting paces. The stuff we've recorded already, it has been so wildly different. There's a range of so many things that Fia is doing and feeling that as an actor it's a tremendous challenge to me. There's stuff that I cannot experience in real life, and I have to use my imagination to understand exactly what that would be like. And it's been really exciting. What can I tell you that won't ruin it? I don't know. Nozzo's amazing in it. That's my main thing. But I am a fan of Edwin, and I have been since the first Detective Grimoire game. I think I probably messaged him when I played it and said, I think you're the next Dominic Amato. I think you're amazing. You have amazing protagonist voice. And now somehow I am the protagonist working with him. I don't really get how that happened. I mean, I do. I just told you how that happened. But yeah, working with him is phenomenal. He's such a good actor that even if he's not on the call, I hear him in my mind. I know what he's going to do with the line. So sometimes we'll play. There are some really beautifully gentle moments, and I think this is a thing that Dave does so well. These sort of tender moments in the midst of a high concept sci-fi game. You'll get these beautiful moments that two characters just click and relate to each other. And we'll be playing this really gentle scene, and I'll realize in my mind I can hear what a great job Edwin's going to do with it. I know, I trust him that whatever I lay down, he's going to respond to beautifully. And I think that's going to be really a key part of it. Lots of people have gone, Rosa and Joey again. Nope, very different relationship. Such a different relationship. It is interesting that, he's blue as well.
Yeah.
Neither of us spotted it until it was too late. It goes into a bunch of places that you really wouldn't expect. That I think time travel is a well-worn concept for a good reason. It's great. It melts your brain. It does all sorts of fun, interesting things. But I think David spent so long thinking about it really hard and exactly what he wants to say with time travel and the way that he wants to do it. It's such a product of his imagination and the things he likes to explore in a game, and that's what makes it really different. And I think that's a really interesting thing for a developer to do, because a lot of the time you think, there are no new ideas, I can't do anything original. The thing that's really original is to make it yourself as much as possible. So that's been really interesting. And I think that it was partly written during a pandemic. There are like flavors of that come in, about being isolated, about the world going on outside the door, and you don't get to be involved in that anymore, which is a running theme with Fia, that she's cut off from the world because of time travel. And the way that she experiences the world is as an outsider. And again, playing an outsider is fascinating and it's really fun and interesting. Dave did say that I can say mean things about him as long as it's funny. But I'm not gonna.
He's such a nice chap. It's impossible. It just feels wrong, doesn't it?
It does. That's exactly right. I think without kind of blowing the entire concept, I can't really give you any like little nuggets, because it's not a game that works like that.
Yeah.
Because it's such a cohesive concept, because everything is working towards the ending, which I know and I'm not going to tell you.
Fair enough. That's fair enough.
It's a Gilbert ending. Come on.
Yeah.
You all want to be surprised.
We do. We do.
Yeah.
We're all excited by that game. It looks amazing.
Yeah, it does.
I'm very excited. I get to play it as well before everyone. I get to play it mission by mission at the moment. I'm very excited to settle down. But it does mean there's no walkthroughs for me. If I get stuck, I've got to talk to Dave.
Yeah.
I have to confess, I did watch your walkthrough of the demo.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I do. I dropped in on a number of streams as well. I'm like a ghost that appeared. Like, wait. The protagonist voice is in the chat. Oh no. And like on Cress Up stream, I was going, do you want a hint?
Yeah.
I have played this 5 times already. You just need to pick up. It's in the corner of the screen. Just put the pointer over the. But yeah, I watched your walkthrough and I just really enjoyed, as a fellow British person, the way that you were clicking with some of the stuff I was saying.
Yeah.
That's an interesting thing for me. Is I wonder how widespread some of this stuff is, but I think there was a moment when you flip over the padlock. Hopefully this isn't a huge spoiler, but you flip over the padlock and its code number is covered in rust. And I think Fia says something like, nothing's ever easy, is it? And you kind of fell about laughing and going, that's exactly what I was going to say. It's a really great moment of, yes. That's exactly it. I think as a protagonist, Fia does do that kind of, it's not third person protagonist where it's like, hey, I know I'm in a game. It's more just kind of, we're both in this boat trying to do this really weird job, and fine, do this. And that is really, really fun to play around with. But yeah, because I watch other people playing it, I get a sense of how people are responding and whether people are picking up all of these little character things that I'm doing. And again, as a fellow British person, I love that you get some of the intonations that I'm doing, or the phrasing and stuff. Because when you're recording in a booth like this, you know, it's not always clear whether everything is going to land, and you have to just kind of be really confident and go, no, this is what I want to do with it. And I've got Dave there, who is, you know, the keeper of the concept. He knows exactly how he wants it to go, and he's very generous in that. You know, he'll have heard my voice in his head while he's writing, and sometimes the scripts are a year old, and then he'll let me do something new with it, which is, like I say, it's tremendously generous that he has that creative space where he can go, well, I know what I thought you were going to do, but that's actually better. He doesn't have an ego about it, which it makes it a really fun way to work. But because we're quite isolated, we don't necessarily know how everything's going to land. So I haunt streams and so on to find out whether people are really understanding what I'm doing with her. Because I think when the launch trailer came out, there were a few mean comments about her just kind of sounding really low energy and stuff. And I think that's possibly to do with female protagonist, British protagonist, and because WadjetEye tend to do quite low-key trailers. There's no kind of inner world stuff. There's no boom boom stuff. It's usually very like, so here's a character. Maybe you're intrigued. And I love that kind of advertising. But a lot of people, I think, were expecting something more dramatic. And then when they were playing the demo, they're like, oh no, this makes total sense.
Yeah.
It's just such a relief. Such a relief. So yeah, there was a review in PC Gamer that said something along the lines of, she feels like an old friend. She feels familiar. The way that she speaks to you is like an old friend, and I think that's that's really good. That's kind of what I was going for. I did a lot of thinking about protagonists before starting, perhaps overthinking, because I played them so much. I tried to think about what would work with this specific game, and because it's high concept, it's sci-fi, and it has some really big storylines. What I wanted was for fear to feel like a safe place for the player.
Yeah.
Sometimes it can be antagonistic, and the protagonist character is going, "Oh, why are you trying to use this object with the other object? Are you stupid?" And like that sometimes works for some games, but after a while that's a little trying. So the approach that I have is that when she's talking to the player, it's almost like she's kind of talking to herself, and that she's kind of being a little kinder to the player, and then that kind of makes a lot of the that doesn't work stuff a little easier to bear, I hope.
Yeah.
Yeah, not too frustrating.
No, it was really, it was really interesting to hear an English protagonist in the session that it was. It was really good fun.
It's really interesting being a British protagonist in a game that is so famously, or the game company is so famously associated with New York. And I think I had a lot of fears of people kind of going, "What's this nonsense?" I did have somebody say, "Oh, she sounds like a public school girl." And I thought, nah, my accent's a bit too muddy for that. And we have good fun because there is parts of the game where she's had a drink. I hope that isn't a spoiler. Where she's had a drink, and I've been using my native accent to creep out then. So it's sort of interplay of kind of the British thing where you have a telephone voice, your work voice, which sounds like this. And then when you're with your friends, you sound more like this. And being able to kind of play around with that. And I think that won't necessarily land for Americans, but I certainly think the Brits will go, "Ooh, interesting." But yeah, anyway, those are my thoughts. It is really interesting being a Brit on an American game. It's really interesting.
Well, we all look forward to hearing and seeing and playing the final product. Thank you so much, Sally. It's been an absolute delight to have you on the podcast. I could listen to you talk all day, and I will probably play games later on where you do talk continuously to me. But
glutton for punishment. You've just played 2 in a row that are me, so I'm surprised you haven't had enough of that.
Yeah, I have recently just finished Lord Winklebottom as well, so I love the character in that. It was a very good one. Yeah.
I just love that.
So if people are listening to you and want to contact you for various reasons, whether they want to book you or to you off about voice acting, where can they find you?
You can find me on my website, which is sallybeaumont.com, exactly how my name is written and spelled. I've also got a YouTube channel, which, again, same name, where I put lots of behind the scenes videos. So if you want to get more of a feel of what sessions are like with a voice actor, whether you're directing or being a voice actor, you can go and have a look at those. They're a lot of fun. And I'm on Twitter at Sally Beaumont 1, because I am the premier Sally Beaumont. Sally Beaumont was taken.
Sally Beaumont 1. Well, there you go. I'll leave all those links in the description and in the show notes, or wherever you're watching or listening this, they'll be down below, so you can go check out more of Sally. Thanks very much for joining us here, Sally, and have a wonderful rest of the day, and go and figure out more of our Old Skies for us.
Okay.
And there you go. That was our amazing chat with Sally Beaumont. Do you have a favourite voice that Sally's done, a favourite character she's portrayed?
That's a very, very tough question there.
She's done a lot.
She has, yeah. And I haven't played Hob Sparrow yet, so I'm planning on playing that soon. So that might change my opinion. So I don't know that I'm going to commit to that. Ask me after I've finished Hob Sparrow.
Okay, all right.
And I'll be able to give you a definitive answer. How about you?
Yeah, well, one of mine is, I mentioned it in there, is it's Lord Winklebottom Investigates, where she plays a goat.
That is a good one.
A goat maid.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of the voices that she does is they're not like not like really ridiculously out there voices. But yeah, the goat is she's hilarious. And
Yeah.
it's a thing that's stuck in my head about that game where she just screams and goes, "Oh my god, the monster's dead!" Like really, but it's amazing, and she carries that on throughout the game. It's absolutely fantastic character. It's the standout character of that game, I think, and it was a good game.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I think wasn't that on the trailer as well? Do I remember that right?
Yeah,
was that line on the trailer, and it was like right at the beginning, it just instantly hooked me. I thought, whoa, this has got my attention.
Yeah, I think
really well done.
Yeah, I think it was a great trailer to hook you in, because like even if you're just passing, it's just, and then you just see it and you hear it and you're like, oh, what the heck was that? So that was well done, Charlotte, for getting that trailer together.
Yeah.
So we're hoping on the next episode or on an upcoming episode to speak to Dave Gilbert about Old Skies and things like that. So touch wood, that'll be soon, because it'd be nice to get his update, I guess.
Yeah, would indeed be very interesting to hear from the man himself, actually. So
yeah, I spoke to him before we restarted this podcast as a duo. I spoke to him. It was about January, February 2021, maybe. It was during lockdown anyway. I remember that, and yeah, so that was like 3 years, 2 to 3 years ago now. So a lot has changed. Did you see his talk at Adventure X?
Yes, I did. Yeah, I was there. I think you were there as well, weren't you?
I was there.
Yes.
Yes.
I did. Yeah, and I saw he did an interview with Cressup as well afterwards, which I watched as well. It's really interesting to listen to him speak. Actually, he's got a lot of cool things to say.
Yeah, and hopefully we'll be getting that from the horse's mouth.
Over
the next couple of episodes. But yeah, we've also got quite a few other awesome guests penciled in. So if you are not subscribed to either of our channels, then please make sure you do. If you're watching this on my channel, please head over to Turian's and subscribe, and vice versa. And we are also on Spotify and working to get it everywhere else.
We are.
Yeah. So we'll leave you there, guys, and make sure you have. I'm going to finish it how I always finish it, because I can't help myself.
It's like ingrained in your head, isn't it? You do it so many times that it's just natural.
Exactly. Right. Thanks for watching, guys. Have a wonderful morning or afternoon or evening, or whatever it is you're doing right now, and take care.